Good morning. I'm New Center Maine's Don Kerrigan, joined by our intrepid analyst, Democrat Ken Altshuler, Republican Ray Richardson. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. Too bad there's nothing going on in politics these days, huh? So we have the Senate moving ahead on President Biden's COVID relief plan Thursday night and early Friday morning, passing a budget resolution, and that moves on a tie vote broken by Vice President Harris. That now moves basically the Biden plan forward to be put into a bill, and all of that voted on. Is any of this a surprise?
No, I don't think so. President Biden won the right to govern. He now has a Democrat Senate by virtue, as you acknowledge, the president of the Senate being Kamala Harris, and they still have a slim majority in the House. They have the right to govern. This has been long one of my criticisms of Republicans is that when we have the power, we often don't seem to know what to do with it. Democrats, make no mistake, when they have the power, they use it.
But Ray, let me remind you that the tax relief bill was done in the same way. Budget and reconciliation.
Right, sure.
To avoid the 60 votes. And I'm not going to yet count out some bipartisan collaboration, because we do have Susan Collins. We have certainly some moderate Republicans, Angus King, who would like to see a bipartisan bill. I'm not going to count it out yet, but when Joe Biden says we're going to do this one way or the other, he means it.
Right, Absolutely. He does seem to. And you're talking about 1.9 trillion versus 619 billion. These guys were a long ways apart. That was never going to work. I mean, I admire Senator Collins for making the attempt. As we know, Joe Manchin seems to be the most popular guy in all of Washington right now. We'll see what happens.
Right. So Collins and Manchin got a couple of amendments passed on Thursday night. One regarding funding for rural hospitals, another putting a cap above which people aren't going to get stimulus payments. Will she and Manchin continue to have a lot of influence in this process, or has that ship already sailed?
Well, those amendments, of course, as you know, are not binding. Those amendments are to have people identify what side of the fence they're on. So it's really to call people out publicly. But I do think that Susan Collins and Manchin carry a tremendous amount of influence, because there's going to be times that a Democrat's not going to vote with the majority. And those independent votes, Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski as well, could move the tide and avoid the need for Kamala Harris to come in and break the tie. So I do think they have a tremendous amount of power.
Right.
And Senator Collins has been on my program recently. She's always spoken very highly of Senator Joe Manchin out of West Virginia. If there is such a thing as a blue dog Democrat, my friend Joe Bruno says there isn't. But if there is, Joe Manchin certainly fits that bill. Steve Abbott, her chief of staff, was on Monday, spoken very highly of the relationship between Manchin and Collins. So there is an opportunity for the two of them to work together. They're more closely aligned than, let's say, Dick Durbin and Senator Collins would be.
Yeah. And what about Senator King? Does he have a significant role in this, or because he's independent, does it not matter as much?
Well, normally you would think because he's independent, he would have a much larger role. Unfortunately, Senator King politically has basically acted as a Democrat, so that's where most people believe his vote's going to go. He aligns with them pretty closely if you look at his voting record and his time in the Senate. So would hope that his independent moniker would really make him a power broker here. Frankly, I don't think he is.
But keep in mind, he was one of the people who supported what Susan Collins was saying and said, we're not playing with monopoly money. So he was critical of the $1.9 billion package as well. So you're right, Ray, that he may not have the power because he is identified in caucuses with the Democrats. But remember, he is another senator from Maine, and we have Susan Collins. So Maine senators, I do think, wield some considerable power.
Well, and let me just say this. I would love it so if Angus King would really step up here. He's a very smart man. And I believe that, and we saw some of this when he was governor. He was far to the left for me, but the truth is he is a pretty common sense guy when he wants to be. He could play a major role here. The two Maine senators could lead this country if Angus King would work with Susan Collins to do it.
I agree.
All right. So, and quickly here for one more question in this segment, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene removed from her committee assignments by the Democratic majority. Democrats want to make her the face of the Republican Party. Is this going to go away, or is this going to last?
Well, she is the face of the Republican Party, because the Republican Party Ray, Liz Cheney went under more scrutiny than Representative Greene. And Representative Green is insane. And Liz Cheney is a woman of principle. So they have decided to align themselves with Donald Trump's Republican Party. I think that's a mistake. I think they're giving him far too much power. They think he has far too much influence. And I think that that doesn't bode well at the end of the day. She should have been censored. She should have been censored by the Republicans, not by the Democrats.
Okay, Ray.
So, Ken, would you have said Liz Cheney is principled if she hadn't voted for impeachment? I mean, come on, you guys loved Republicans who crossed the line. The House has a constitutional right to set their own rules. I have no problem with it. I really didn't know who she was until earlier this week when some of the Democrats in Maine started poking me about why aren't you speaking out about her? I mean, we have enough dummies in Congress. It's hard to keep up with all of them. My only issue with this at all is the unequal application of standards. I mean, Ilhan Omar has given so many anti-Semitic statements. They accuse Marjorie Taylor Greene of anti-Semitic tropes. Why aren't they held equally to account? If the House wants to bounce her, they have the right to expel her. They have the right not to seat members. If that's what they want to do, that's up to them. Just do it across the board equally. Don't be selective. And that's what they're doing here. This is a partisan thing as much as it is a principled thing.
Let's talk a bit about some in-state issues and this anti-mask sentiment that continues to exist, continues to bubble up in county commissioner meetings of all things. Androscoggin County this week, we had a crowd there, quite boisterous, I gather, not wearing masks and demanding that the commissioners go with at least one of them who wanted to pass a resolution, anti-mask, not going along with what the governor wants for restrictions. What in the world, Ray, I'll start with you because I know you hear a lot of this on your show. What in the world is going on? Have people gone crazy about masks?
Well, I think part of the issue is that this has been going on now for almost a year. And Americans are not people who like to be strapped down. They don't like to be told what to do. I think there's part of it. I don't understand this anti-mask sentiment. I wear one. I will not wear one outside. I'm very clear about that. But if I walk into a retail store, the rules are you wear a mask if you go into a store. I try to play by the rules. As much as I've disagreed with Governor Mills' handling of all this, in fact, I even helped form a group to sue her over it, I have followed all of her rules because I'm a citizen and that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a doctor. I do spend a lot of time talking to these people. They say wearing a mask helps stop transmission. Whether true or not, for me, it's worth it to wear it. My wife is among the vulnerable population, and I play by the rules.
Ray, I'm glad you brought up that second point. That's really the point. Shame on them for redoing science. And the problem is, what's been presented to the council is that there's no scientific evidence that masks prevent contagion. That is just patently wrong. The CDC in the United States, CDC in Maine, science has concluded, for the most part, that masks does reduce contagion. So say we don't want to wear a mask because we don't want you telling us what to do. I can accept that even though it's wrong. Yeah. But to say that the science doesn't support it, that's irresponsible.
Well, I think part of the problem is Dr. Fauci, unfortunately, has been all over the place with this. I've played it on the air many times where Fauci spent 7 minutes in an interview saying masks don't work, the particles are too small. And then he's saying we've got to wear a mask. And then he said recently, well, maybe a double mask. Fauci has been all over the place, and I think that has really hurt. Just take a position and stick with it.
No, he was trying to appease Donald Trump is the problem.
Well, his job was
let me interrupt here a second.
I don't know why he did that.
How much is politics driving this? No coincidence that this first cropped up in Piscataquis County, a rural county, probably more likely to be conservative residents.
Sure.
Androscoggin County, aside from Lewiston, Auburn, is largely rural, probably
right.
Some more conservative folks in those areas too. Is that driving this to some extent?
It's always political. You're a city councilman. You're a commissioner. It's always political. He's a conservative. The people who appear to not wearing masks are conservatives. It is the conservatives versus the liberals, and liberals wear masks, and responsible Republicans like Ray Richardson wears a mask and follows rules. That's what he should be doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the poster boy for all this. I do think it's a little different. I don't think it's as much Republican Democrat as much as it is people are just tired of being told what to do. I mean, I say to my wife, we go into a store, hon, we've got 10 minutes. I'm happy to go sit in the car if you want to continue to shop. I can't wear this doggone thing any longer. So I get it, but I wear it out of respect to the store owners. I wear it out of respect to my wife or people like my wife who are vulnerable. I don't actually know if it works or not. After listening to Fauci early on, I don't know. For me, it's worth it not to find out that it did work and I didn't wear it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's move on. Maine legislature this week asked through a bill from Representative Rachel Talbot Ross to create a system requiring racial impact statements for some bills, just as they currently do financial impact statements. Ray, I'll start with you. Is obviously this has to go through the whole process. Does the idea make sense to you?
No, not at all. I am so, look, are there racists in this country? Yes. Are the vast majority of the American people racist? No. Most people care about, I was brought up, we're all God's children. That means we're unique and precious. By the way, that includes the innocent unborn, but we can move on from that. You judge people by what they do. And racism is not about what people do. It's about how they are made, what color their skin is.
But the argument about this is, I believe, is about that legislation that can get passed can have an unwarranted effect on some populations, right?
Is there really, honestly, people may say, okay, you're a WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, what do you know? But really, is there a whole lot of difference between a really poor white person and a really poor black person?
Yeah,
this isn't about race. It's about impoverished people in this country struggling.
Right. Far more percentage of poor black people get shot than poor white people. There is rampant racism in this country. If we haven't learned anything in the last year, it's that Black Lives Matter, and we need to understand what that means. And it means that we have laws that inadvertently impair and impose wills upon. We talked about the 90s with the crime bills that hurt Hillary Clinton in the election. That one of the results of that crime bill was to incarcerate young black men. In states that have done this, and Chris Christie in New Jersey had that bill be introduced. Only one bill actually had an impact statement on it, but it was worth doing it. It may be an exercise in regulation, but it's a good goal. I certainly support it 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree, Ken. There are a lot of black people that get shot in this country, but if you look at the actual FBI statistics, it's black people shooting black people.
I've heard that before, Ray. That's not true.
Crime bill in 1994. That was Joe Biden's bill.
I know.
Trump is the one that did criminal justice reform to undo it. So I think instead of constantly focusing on our differences, why don't we try to figure out how to solve poverty and hunger, which affects all people? And I believe all lives matter, including the innocent unborn.
I do too, but racism is rampant and we've got to recognize it and treat it.
Okay. Briefly, one final question. Legislature's also being asked to change the Maine state flag, get rid of the flag with the state seal and move back to the old one with the pine tree and the star. Should they even be talking about this? Ken, you first.
Yes. I love the old flag. I love the pine tree. I love the star. I think our current flag is frankly ugly. Nobody knows what it means or what it represents. I like the old simple flag. Why not? Why not do something that's new and fresh and renovating, even though it is an old flag? I love it. And I like that flag and I'll fly it.
Okay, Ray, your take.
I don't care. I've seen both of them. I like them both for different reasons. I just wish the legislature would get together in Augusta and start working after being gone for 11 months and stop the craziness.
There you go. Another issue. Okay, quickly, Ray, winners and losers.
So my winner is not so much a winner, but as it is a tribute. And that goes out to Tug Grapham in my hometown of Westbrook. He is one of the greatest guys you've ever met in your life. He's a World War II veteran. He served in Patton's Third Army, and he's turning 100 later this month. And if you go to our station's website, you'll be able to find his address and send him a birthday card. He's just one of the greatest souls I've ever met and been a great friend to me.
All right, great. Ken.
All right, well, the loser of the week is the Republicans in the House of Representatives who would condemn Liz Cheney, despite the fact that, yes, Ray, there are Democrats I condemn as well. When Bill Clinton was not impeached, was not convicted, I criticize the Senate Democrats for that. And then they let Congresswoman Green get away with not just insane statements, but racist statements, anti-Semitic statements, and crazy statements. So those are the losers. The winners of the week, I think, are the Senate Democrats, who have used the same tools that Republican senators used to get the tax reform bill out to get the budget reconciliation. Good for them. They're the winners of the week.
All right. Thank you both very much. Plenty going on. A lot more to talk about. News Center Maine continues right after this.